Okay, so again, I apologize for the phone recording, but um, hopefully my parents this weekend are gonna replace my laptop because we unfortunately had no luck finding it. But I'm excited because catching up has been a real tough endeavor, but um, things happen for a reason. But this blog I'm uh, replying to in regards to my group religious presentation. I chose the Catholicism group because I wanted to try something different at first, but then I realized that although I do identify as a Catholic and that's what I was raised as, I didn't immerse myself in it, and after a lot of reflection, when wanting to choose a group, I realized that although I identify as a Catholic, I don't know a lot about it, I guess, for lack of a better statement. And so I thought, why not try to learn a little bit more about my religious upbringing. So my group was fantastic to work with. We all brought a lot to the table. I believe only myself and one other person identified as being familiar with the Catholic religion as a whole or being brought up in that faith. So that was nice. It was kind of funny and interesting to see them ask us questions first about it, like anything they weren't sure about before we started the readings, and I was just like, well, sorry, I know as much about it as you do. The only thing I was really familiar with was the I guess schedule or structure of the Catholic masses, because growing up until even to this day, whenever I go stay or visit with my grandma, I take her to church because she can be described as a very old school Catholic, and so that's something I'm very familiar with. The songs we sing, the when we stand up, the prayers, communion, requirements of CCD classes for confirmation, and all that good stuff. That's probably the only part I'm familiar with. So it was interesting to learn about where it came from, or major people that contributed to it, or why Catholics view things certain ways, and all that good stuff. So yeah, it was very interesting to learn about all that, because it's not something I allowed myself the chance to learn about. As I said, my maternal grandmother is a very old school, hardcore Catholic, is what my mother and I describe her as, and she's a very sweet woman, and I admire her for her faith, and I have been told by her that I am the one that made her faith so strong, because my parents had me very, very young, around 19, and my grandmother, she was a single mother raising two kids, and so she was a very hard worker, and when my parents told her about me, she freaked out. She's told me the story before, that she pretty much freaked out because she didn't know how they were gonna take care of me or be able to support me. Like, what, they still lived at home with my mom lived with my grandma and my dad with his mom, and so she didn't she was lost. She said she was lost. She was stressed, and she didn't know what to do at a certain point, and she somehow found her way to I believe it was a Bible group or Bible study, or just a support group of people from a church that were in her same predicament, and they would meet at this couple's house that went through the same thing, and so they would pray about it, and they would offer her advice and resources through the church and all that. And she said that that's when she found her way to God. And so I've always admired that. I really, really have. It's just growing up, I guess, when you're told you have to do something or that it has to be done a certain way or this and that and the other, I didn't identify with it, I guess. And as I said, she's very old school, so whenever the topics of controversy such as homosexuality or racism or certain things you're expected to do or expected not to do, and I would hear her views or her friends or just certain people, not everyone, but certain people, I didn't agree with it. I didn't. And so I guess having her kind of push her religious views and all that, it kind of turned me away from the church a little bit because I didn't understand why I guess people would use their Catholic faith or just any faith for that matter, because I started looking at it from a bigger picture and I didn't understand why they would use that as an excuse to turn people away or anything of the sort. And so for a while I wasn't religious at all until I made the decision to just I still identify with it and agree with some Catholic teachings or practices, as I said, that we learned about. And I just decided to practice my own religion or my own faith and in my own way. I do believe there's a God, and he identify, I guess, more with the Catholic religions, but then also I like and agree with some other religions that I've learned about. But anyways, so I would have to say after our research and everything that I had a bias based off of those things. And I thought that, or not thought that, but pretty much assumed that every Catholic was that way, was the way my grandma is, or her brother for that matter. Just very pushy or not as lenient or forgiving about things, or not forgiving, but more judgmental about certain things. And that's what's kept me away from it. But after our group compiled all of this information, I understood. It brought me back to it, I guess. It taught me that I was being prejudiced, I guess, against my own religion, and it helped me, and I'm glad that I ended up choosing Catholicism because it was something I was brought up with, and I think that it kind of strengthened the bond that I had kind of neglected to feed or to take care of. And so I'm really glad that I stayed with it, and that although I'm probably not going to go back to firmly saying that I'm a Catholic, even though that might change later. I'm still trying to process my own religious views and choices. But I would say it was a positive outlook. I can't. What I've learned is that I can't judge or be prejudiced against Catholicism or any religion, because people are different and they apply the teachings that they interpret differently. And just because a couple people are, in my opinion, slightly radical about teachings, I shouldn't be worried about those people. I should be concerned with how I interpret certain readings or how I interpret my God and what he means to me, and the things that he can provide. And I think as long as I'm okay with that I'll be okay, and I'll find enlightenment in that. And yeah, so Catholicism, it was interesting to say the least, and I enjoyed immersing myself back into the teachings and the knowledge of it.